Hello everyone and welcome back to James Talk Sport. Coming up will be my run through stages 14 and 15 of the Tour de France as we head into the final rest day of the race and we look ahead to could be in store in the final week of the race. So let's take a look at stages 14 and 15. Stage 14 was 183 kilometers. It was a hilly day and it was a day perfectly designed for a breakaway. And eventually, that's what happened. Um, it took maybe 80, 90k for the breakaway to settle. Large breakaway that it was clear that it was then going to take the finish. Bauke Mollema, Michael Woods, Wout Poels, Guillaume Martin. We're all in there, all fighting it out. The winner uh, was Bauke Mollema. A fantastic attack, 40k from the finish in the final 40-50k to seal the win. He is becoming a bit of an expert at doing this sort of move, and I'm amazed that they let him go. I really am. In terms of GC, it was a relatively easy day for them. They kept it all together on the final climb, and the only change was Guillaume Martin moved up into second overall. Um, yeah, it was similar to the way Ben O'Connor did, but without the stage win. Any other action? Not really. So all the GC guys were keeping their powder dry for stage 5, stage 15, and onwards towards the finish of the race. Stage 15 began as you'd expect on one of the classic draggy starts of the tour. A breakaway was eventually established at the bottom of that descent, led by Thomas de Gent. It contained Dylan van Baarle and Castroviejo for Ineos, Wout van Aert, Sepp Kuss, and Steven Kruijswijk for Jumbo-Visma. Interesting tactic there, leaving Vingegaard isolated, although Mike Teunissen in the end did a fantastic ride. And Nairo Quintana, Michael Woods, Wout Poels, and Alejandro Valverde. Groupama got a 3 rides in the breakaway, David Gaudu. And they were forced into doing the majority of the work. In fact, pretty much until the final couple of kilometers of Enviala, where Trek decided to come up with Nibali for Nibali and give them a bit of a hand. King of the Mountains battle is hotting up perfectly between Quintana, who's more of an outsider, Wout van Aert, Michael Woods, and Wout Poels. And going down the descent of this Souvenir Henri de Grange, they the breakaway came back together all the way into Viexalis, and it blew to pieces on that climb. Quintana was the first to go, and then one of the first to be dropped. At this and ultimately Sepp Kuss and Alejandro Valverde were the strongest two, and they were alone, and then Sepp Kuss went out solo, took the win, and sort of Jumbo Visma repaying him for all of his service that he's done over the last few years. In the GC group, on the Cap 2 climb, it was Movistar and Ineos, the most unlikely allies of the tour, beginning the work on the Cap 2 climb. And then Ineos really went to work on shredding that group on the Cap 1 climb, the Enviala. Teo finally began to show some signs of either form or recovering from some injuries because he's been pretty anonymous for the whole race. Richie Porte as well, and Geraint Thomas was Geraint Thomas. Their tactic was working perfectly. They had Castro and Dillon up the road, probably until the top of the Envalera, or however you say it. I think what they could have done was, as they were closing in on those two, Carapaz could have attacked in the final few 100 meters, and Geraint Thomas just let the gap go, test them out, and then you've got Van Baarle. Thomas will still be there for the descent, and it's just trying something different. In the end, they banked everything on Biaxalis. They dropped Guillaume Martin on the descent. He went from second to ninth in the GC. On the climb itself, Carapaz attacked relatively early. But again, it was small. They got the gap, then it was closed. Uran would attack Vindegoal, and everyone was attacking. An interesting note, I'm not sure if it is UCI legal, but on Uran's attack, he did go for the classic track position with his hands draped over the bars and his little fingers on the brake lever. Now, I thought that was banned by the ECI, but clearly it isn't. So, and it, let's see, nothing will come of it. Again, all systems go with everyone. They were all riding in the same group together. Kelderman, Mas, Lutsenko were, going on and off the back in O'Connor. But ultimately the group came back together minus Lutsenko. Anything else? Cav is still in the race, so that's a beautiful thing. So that's the roundup of 14 and 15. Let's take a look ahead to the final week of the Tour de France. What I expect from the GC battle, what I expect from the sprints, and see what happens there. So, into the final week of the Tour de France, and it's a very mixed bag of racing. Tuesday is it's going to be a breakaway day. Pas de la Casa to Saint Gaudens. They go over a few Cat 2s, Cat 1s, and a Cat 4, but it will be a breakaway. Stage 17, Bastille Day. This is going to be a GC day, the second summit finish of the race. We all remember that gimmicky 65k stage with the gridded start. It's basically that with an extra 110k on it. So I'm going to go for a GC battle, and I think with the altitude, I think it will favour Carapaz, but I think Pogacar won't lose any time on him. Uran will be up there as well. He's good at the old altitude, so the one GC guy that we may see begin to struggle a little bit is Jonas Vingegaard. But then he has been the strongest rider in the race outside of Pogacar. So we'll see on that one. I'm expecting it to be quite an aggressive stage. If I was one of the GC teams, Ineos, EF, or Jumbo, I'd maybe consider putting a couple of climbers in the breakaway, attacking and bridging up to them on the Col du Portet on the final climb. 18 is Luzardiden. We all know that classic stage. Tourmalet, Luzardiden, another GC battle, and I think Pogacar will want to win a mountain stage in yellow, and I think this will be the one. 19 is designed to be a sprinter's day, but we all know these flat stages in the last week might go to a breakaway. It all depends if Cav wants to have two opportunities to go alone with the record. I personally think he should go for it. Just so you're not leaving it to the Champs-Elysees. But then the romantic in me is going, all systems go for the Champs-Elysees. 20 will be a TT. This is where Uran and Vindigo have a massive advantage over Carapaz. Carapaz needs to, in those 2 days, he needs to put over a minute into both of them. And frankly, that's not going to happen. So that looks like it will be the podium. The battle for the stage will probably be between Stefan Kung, Stefan Bissegger, and Tadej Pogacar. And we round off with a trip around the Champs-Elysees. I don't need to tell you who I'm going to say is going to win this. Mark Cavendish. He's going to break the record. So there we have the roundup of 14 and 15 and a look ahead to this next week and the final week of the Tour de France. I hope you enjoy the racing, and I hope to see you at the end for a review of the race as a whole. Thank you and goodbye.